Hi, I'm Todd. I recently purchased a BeatBuddy 2 pedal and wanted to use it with a looper that can handle both parts. Obviously, Pigtronics can do it, although not graphically. The Aeros looper can do it graphically, but it's expensive. So I thought I'll try to recreate it in Loopy Pro and make it work the same as the Aeros looper in 2x2 RPO record, play, overdub mode. I've come pretty close, and I'll demo that a little later in this video. I'll show you my diagram of all of my connections. We'll come back and go through some of the settings in the Loopy Pro project, and then we'll do a quick demo so you can see kind of how it works. In my environment, I have a USB-C powered hub plugged into an iPad Pro, running Loopy Pro and some effects, Nimbrini, Tonax, Tone Stack, things like that. And it's connected to an iRig HDX in the effects loop of my Mackie Showbox. Obviously, none of that's important to this setup, but what is important is the Mvave Chocolate 4-button controller in manufacturer default mode. I have another video on Loopy Pro and Spark Edge that details putting that pedal into that mode in one of the chapters. Also a MIDI I/O, something that can take USB-C to MIDI in out. In this case, I'm using a Legato cheap eBay interface that works quite well. And obviously a BeatBuddy. So there's all my connections. This will be available for download in a link so you can see what MIDI channels we're using, what I've set my foot controller to do inside the template. Okay, my Aeros 2x2 RPO Loopy Pro project has several sections. This section right through here is just all effects. You can delete that right off of it if you want to, or not. The top section has a reset button, which you hold to reset. Start of a new song, push reset, clear everything. It has a BB sync on and off. What this is doing is turning on and off the synchronization to the USB MIDI interface. So if you leave it on and we change the tempo on the BeatBuddy to 110, we can see that the tempo up here, well, it's 109.9, 110. There it is, it's sunk up. If we set it back to 100, Loopy will also sync back to 100 BPM. If you turn that off, it will no longer sync. Maybe you want to play a song without the BeatBuddy. You want to set your own tempo, just you and the guitar. So that's why that's there. The next one is BB trans on and BB trans off. And this switch controls a control profile for BB transition. And BB transition is basically CC102 coming into Loopy Pro from the BeatBuddy on channel 4. If you turn that off, then transitioning the BeatBuddy to a new part won't make any difference here. Maybe you're going to set your part 1 loop and it's a boring song. It's the same 3 chords through the whole song. Whether it's the verse or the chorus, you don't care. It's all the same. Turn off the transition. You can still change your drums over. That same progression is just going to keep going. So that's an option. By default, it's on. Down below that, we have part 1 and part 2. This is the actual transition. Part 1 means that part 1 loop 1 and part 1 loop 2 are active. And these two blue buttons are active, which is play, record, dub, part 1, loop 1, and record, play, dub, part 1, loop 2. When it switches to part 2, the purple buttons come into play and control the purple loop, both purple loops. Other than that, we have 4 big areas along the bottom, which we will map to a foot switch. One button will be play, stop, all, and double clicking will immediately stop whatever's playing. Transition you won't use when you're using transition on the BeatBuddy, but if you're not using the BeatBuddy and you want to build a song with 2 parts without the BeatBuddy involved, you can use that transition to do the same transition that the BeatBuddy would do if it was involved. And then these buttons, when part 1 is active, we said these blue buttons were active. And when part 2 is active, the purple buttons are active for the last 2 foot switches. And that is controlled, again, by control profiles. Part 1 control is all controlling part 1 loops. And part 2 control is controlling all the part 2 loops. So by default, you start off in part 1. That's pretty much it. The only real MIDI commands going out to the BeatBuddy are CC 108, 1 through 100, which controls the volume. And we can see as I drag this, the volume changes on the BeatBuddy. And 102 coming from the BeatBuddy, which is just simply whatever part you're on, transition to the other one. So on a transition, it'll go from part 1 to part 2. The next transition will go from part 2 to part 1. Which means that you can't really use it with 3-part, 4-part, 5-part songs. It's 2-part songs, which is the same thing that Aeros supports in 2x2. Unless you transition from part 1 to part 2, and then before you transition to part 3, you turned off transitions. Now it's just going to stay on part 2 the rest of the song. So you could do that. So there's a little flexibility, but not a lot. I'll show you the settings that have to be set on the BeatBuddy here in a second, and then we'll do a quick demo, and that'll be it. Thanks. Okay, to set the BeatBuddy up, really we're just changing a couple MIDI channels. We're setting it to channel 2 and channel 4, sending on 4 and receiving on 2, and we're turning off pass-through MIDI. Because, well, in my case, I'm also using Songbook Pro, so that when I select the next song I'm going to perform, it will automatically select the correct song on the BeatBuddy. It will automatically set the tempo, the drum kit, and set any effects if I'm going to change any in Loopy. And that happens on a different channel, but I don't want any of those commands to get passed through and cause, an early transition, say, from part 1 to part 2. So, as always, you push the tempo and drum set button to get into settings. And we go all the way down to MIDI. MIDI in. Then we go to MIDI channel number. And it's set to channel 2 for MIDI in. So that's it for that one. Then we go to the MIDI out. And we go to channel, and we set that to channel 4. And output type, we change to MIDI out. By default, it'll be MIDI merge, meaning anything the BeatBuddy receives, it's to relay along. And I'm avoiding that, but you can choose to or not. For that matter, you can choose not to change your channels if you go into the Loopy template and change the channels being used to send the volume out to the BeatBuddy and to receive the transition in from the BeatBuddy. Okay, let's do a demo and wrap this up. So to start off, we have the foot controller. 1, 2, 3, and 4, or A, B, C, and D. A, B, C, depending on the controller profile used, and D, depending on the controller profile used. If we reset to start off the song, we're automatically ready. The highlighted button is record something here. So let's start off something. Let's do it kind of slow. Right now we're at 100 beats per minute. And I'm going to use my voice, not a guitar, just so you can see how you can have a 4-beat loop and maybe an 8-beat loop below it, and how it's going to always kick over. The transition will always happen on the master clock at the top, which is 4 beats, right? So let's start simple blues. And I'm going to turn it down a bit because all we need to do is hear it. Okay, good. So we have a drum going. And let's put something in loop 1. I'll use the pedal to kick it off. If the pedal's turned on. There, the pedal's on. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. We also have volume on the loops. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Right. So that's for the top one. This is for the one right below it, part 2. In this controller profile, as long as we're running on part 1. So let's put something down there that's a little longer. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right, so we can see that this one's twice the length of that one. But it did always stop or start at the top of the master. Now, what else can we do while we're in this place? We can overdub. Right, so I can push C to overdub. Ba, 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 ba. Now to undo, that last, only the last layer, we can hold down C, because we're talking about that particular loop. So if I hold it down, it's gone. If I hold it down again, it replaces it. Right? If I'm tired of hearing it, a double click will mute part 1 loop 1. Muted. It doesn't stop. So it's going to come back on a double click wherever the playhead happens to be. Right? While we're still on part 1, we can also use A to stop or play and stop all. So if I hit it, the top of the bar, it stops. If I hit play, it's going to come in at the top of the bar. It'll always be synced to the drums. Now, we've done everything. All the same things work when you're in part 2, just against the purple loops. Part 2. So, if we transition using the BeatBuddy, which button C for me is transition, no double click, single, it'll immediately go into recording part 2 loop 1. So we have something horrible in there. Let's turn down the volume so we don't have to hear it that much. And again, we could do the same. We could record a second loop on the bottom. Da, 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 da. Anything. Right, and the same thing happens. We can mute it with a double click. Or unmute it. Now, when you transition back to part 1, it's right on the beat. So now you have 2 different loops that you can mute or unmute individually, or stop or play together, and transition back and forth with volume control. But like I said, we could turn off transitions. Perhaps we just want to stay on this the rest of the song. Turn it off. If we transition, it's on part 2 now, but I'm still on part 1 on the loopy. Go back to part 1. We never left part 1 because we have transition off. Turn it back on. Transition. Part 1's going out. Part 2's coming in. Now, something important to point out, we'll go back to part 1, is that it always transitions on the top of the beat, because that's when the BeatBuddy's going to go. It does not care that you have 4 bars up here and 8 bars down here, or 1 bar and 2 bars. Sorry, 4 beats and 8 beats. So if I were to push the transition when this bar is not to the midpoint yet, it's going to cut off halfway. Bump! It just chops that right off. Obviously, if you're playing and singing a song, you know when the end of the phrase is, or the end of that musical movement. And play and stop all. Now, again, with everything stopped, if I transition back to part 1, it's going to play it right off. Now, if I wanted to leave the BeatBuddy on part 1 and transition loopy, I can hit transition. I'm on part 2 here and part 1 here, so you can mix it however you really want. Transition back. Right? That's like, I think, more advanced. Generally, people just want to record a verse and record a chorus and have fun over it, or not, or leave nothing on one side or the other. So that's that. I'll have a link at the bottom sharing you a download to this and links to all of the gear that I'm using. Good luck and have fun. That's what it's all about.